Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Brewhouse Art Studio, and today I'm going to be talking about something that has been the topic of many questions, which is root motion. This is something that if you're working in Unreal you need to know about. A lot of people ask, how do I deal with root motion when I'm dealing with motion capture? And it's actually really simple, but first it helps to understand what is the root and what is root motion. So I have a little example capsule right here. You have to imagine there being a capsule around your character, and in a video game the capsule is actually is what you're controlling in it. You push forward on your controller and it moves forward in space. You mouse left or mouse right and it will turn left or right. And then what we do as animators is we decorate this capsule with animation. In fact, let me hop over to Unreal right here, and here inside of Blueprint you can see the actual capsule with our character, and here is our game camera in the background. So whatever we do to this character, however we position him in here, however we position this camera in relation to this capsule is how it's going to be represented in game. One of the things that you'll notice in Unreal, let me see if I can select that capsule. The capsule actually points down the X. So for whatever reason, in Unreal Engine, X is default forward. But we typically animate Y forward. So usually when we get our characters in here, we put them in and then we rotate them to be facing down X. But here, let me hop into game real fast, and here we go. There's our little character, and there I'm going to run around and I'm going to play this animation. Like so. And let me escape out of there. Now let's go look at some of his animations. So alright, so here are some animations. Let's see here. There's locomotion crouch. Alright, so here's some animations of our character. Let me see if I can pull out a, what is this? Jog right 45. So here's a 45 jog backwards, so he's running backwards at a 45-degree angle. And right now I have this set up to enable root motion. Let me uncheck a couple of these, and you can actually see him translating in space. So let me show his bones so you can kind of see what's going on. So let's see the entirety of the hierarchy. And I'll explain to you kind of what's happening right here. So right underneath him is his root, and this red line that you're seeing is drawing a line from 0, which is where he started in world space, and he's traveling in this direction, this distance over this amount of time. And when we animate, a lot of times we don't animate a character in place, we actually animate them translating forward. So what's going to happen if I don't have that on and I start trying to make him run in this direction, you're going to see him snap. He's going to actually translate, and then he's going to snap back into place. I think I'm going to leave this right here, and I'll just save that, and then I will see what happens when I play the animation in game. There we go. There it is. You see that? So you see how he's running and he's snapping, but if I run any of the other directions, he's running just fine. Let me get this window out of the way so you can see it a little bit better. But when I run backwards, he's like running and snapping. So what happens is at the end of the animation, it's going to check to see where your character's at, and wherever your character is at, well, and by at I mean his root, it's going to snap him back into place. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but that's what it looks like. So what we do is, let me come around here and reopen this animation back up. We're going to enable root motion like this. And this is an Unreal thing, but root motion and root and force root lock. Let me see if I can expand these so you can see them a little bit better. Force root lock, while they looks like they do the same thing, they do not do the same thing. Enable root motion deltas out the motion, but it retains the distance traveled, whereas force root lock is like literally locking them in place. And each one of these has a use case scenario, depending on, sometimes it doesn't matter if one and or the other are checked, and sometimes it does. So, but that's a topic for another discussion. So I'm gonna go ahead and save that, and we'll get back into game. Oh, I'm gonna have to escape and then re-jump back into game. Oh, see, there we go. That is a perfect example. The way he's set up in Blueprint, I can't just have enable root motion on. I actually have to root lock him as well. And again, it really depends on how these characters are being technically set up in game. So let me save that. There we go. Now we're running correctly. So again, you might be asking yourself, why do we want to, why not just make them animate in place? Well, the thing is foot sliding. It's actually really difficult to figure out how fast you need to run to make it look like your feet are sticking in the ground. Because remember, all we are is a capsule moving around in space that is decorated with these animations. All right, so let's escape out of here and let's head over to Motionbuilder. Don't need that anymore. So I have a character, he's already characterized and he's ready to animate. So this is not what this video is going to be about. This is primarily about how to handle the root of the character, which is right here. It's the very top node of his hierarchy. I do want to point out that not all game engines have the same technical requirement for the root. In the Unreal's case, root is the very top node of the character's skeleton hierarchy. Sometimes the root is called origin, it's called the locator locomotion. It really depends on the game engine that you're using. Sometimes it sits as a child of the root of the character, and it does math in the engine to delta out the whichever trajectory you're running on, the forward, backwards, whatever. And my own personal opinion is I actually really like it that way. I really don't care for how Unreal has the root at the very top node, and that root is also the origin / locator locomotion / other terms used for this in particular node. All right. So that kind of gives you an idea. Now, if I grab this root and I start moving him around, you can see that he is moving around. It's moving him as a whole. And if I turn on his control rig, so let me turn on his control rig, I'll start moving him around. You can see it leaves the root behind. But now we got to be able to animate this root underneath him when he walks forward. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to do a quick rig. I'm going to show you how I deal with this. So let me hide this right here. This is just my light rig, so I have lights connected to it. So I'm just going to hide that. We don't need to see that. What I did was I went into Maya and I created this shape and I brought it into Motionbuilder. But really, you can use any shape you want. In fact, you can come down into your asset browser, grab a marker, drag it up into your scene. This is what I do a lot of times. Then you go into your properties, change it from a cube to a circle, which it's now, if I zoom in, you can see it's now a circle. And then I will expand the circle in size like this till I have it however big I think it should be. And I will use this as my root, or my main root control or mover control. But let me go ahead and delete this. I already have this in my scene, so we're going to get this set up. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a couple of constraints, a few constraints here. Now I already have some light rigging set up on this character for various little things that I want controlled. So I'm going to use this relation constraint to help me build this out. So the first thing I want to do is, actually I take that back. I'm going to do this a little bit different. So this might be a little bit, it's probably a little bit more advanced. I'm going to do a little more advanced version of this rig. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to, under constraints, I'm going to create a folder. I'm going to call this root for all my root constraints. And then I'm going to create 2 constraints. And they are going to be parent-child constraints. And I'm just going to duplicate that out. And I'm going to drop those right into the root folder. The reason why I'm putting them into a root folder is it just helps me keep things organized. And the first one I'm going to call, I'm going to call this root control. I'm going to call this root joint control. And the next one I'm going to call root rig control. All right. So under root joint control, that means the joint is going to be in control over everything. So I'm going to grab my control and I'm going to drag this into the child. And then I'm going to drag the root, which is this one right here, into the parent. And I'm going to snap and lock. And the reason why I want to snap and lock is sometimes there's a 90-degree offset in these joints because a lot of times they're built Z up or Y up or some other, they come in from somewhere. We have to, if we just zero them out, things may flip around. These characters may end up on their back or on their face. So I just hit snap to apply any offsets, generally rotational offsets. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just, under weighting, I'm going to click A for animate. I'm going to turn that all the way down to 0. That way, if I have it all the way up and I grab his root, you can see it's actually moving that around. In fact, let me turn off his control rig. So no control rig control. And if I grab his root, it's moving everything around as it should. I'm going to go to the other, and I'm going to reverse this. So under the parent is now going to be the control that I created, and the root is going to be the child, because it's going to be, the rig is going to be in control. So I'm going to snap and lock and click A for animate. And now if, with this being 100%, let me turn this down. I should be able to grab the root and move everything around, which I can. So let me put that back at 0. There we go. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to select that node, and I'm going to come over to my properties, and I'm going to go to my editor, and I'm going to click on editor, and I'm going to go to custom properties, and I'm going to add a couple of booleans. So let me go add 1, 2. Actually, I take it back. I'm going to add 1. I'm just going to do 1 control. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that custom property. I'm going to just do this. I'm going to call this root CTR control on off. All right, so root control on off. And done. Now if I come down to my properties, I can see I now have a root control on and off. And I am going to, I need to click animate, but I'm going to show you why I'm going to click the animate button here in a second. Under my rigging, I'm going to go to my relation constraints. And I'm going to create a new relation constraint. That way it may be a little bit easier to follow along. So I'm going to insert a relation constraint. I'm going to call this on off. Okay, so this will be anything I need to turn on and off with a boolean will go into this now. So now I'm going to take these 2 constraints right here, and I'm going to drag them up here, and these are going to be receivers. And I'm going to grab this control node, and I'm going to drag this down in here, and I'm going to call this a sender. But if you notice, we don't have the root control on off here, but I want to add it. And the way you add it is you click the animate button here in the properties, and you can see it's added root control on off. Now I'm going to add a simple node in here, a relation constraint node. It's under number. It's if condition, then A, else B. So I'm going to drag 2 of these up in here. And I'm going to connect my root to condition. And from the condition to here. I'm going to make sure I got these in the right order. So root control. All right. So when this is checked on, it says root control on off. So when it's on, I expect it to be checked like that. So I'm going to show all values so you can kind of see what's happening. These are all 0. And I'm going to set values. So when I want the root rig, I want A. So I'm going to set that to 100. And in B, I'm going to set this to 100. So when it's turned off, or when it's checked on, you can see it's flipping the number here. 100, 0. If I check it on, it's now 100, 0. So when on, if condition, in this case on, it's 100%. And when it's not on, it's else it's B, which is 100% root control. So what this has done is this has allowed me to, when this is ticked on, grab the root and move him around like this. And then when I toggle it the other way, I can no longer move the control. I have to actually grab his root, and then I can move everything around. Now let me show you what that looks like when the control rig is applied. So I'll go ahead and I'll turn on his control rig. So now what I can do is I can grab, if I grab this, nothing happens. If I grab the root, then I can animate it all around. And if I select the the root control, and I turn root control on, the root control is now in control of his root. So this means I can now animate him going forward. I can animate his root going with him, and that is creating the root motion delta that I need in order to create motion. And this is a very long and complicated and off-the-cuff kind of explanation of creating a quick control rig, or a quick rig for dealing with root control. But we're not done yet. So we have one more thing that we have to do in order to make this work for us. So let me get this all back to 0, because I want everything to be at 0 when I do this. Is what I need to do is I need to go to my character extensions, and I need to insert a character extension. And so I created one. I'm gonna rename this. I'm gonna call this root. And what I did was on character extensions, I right-clicked and I said insert character extensions. If you have not created any character extensions for your character, and you're like, hey, where's the character extension group? Well, the way you can get to a character extension group is you need to go over to your asset browser and locate characters, and you'll see character extension right here. You can grab this and drag this right into your scene, and it will create your first character extension, which thus creates the character extension group, and you can start adding things to it. All right, so in my character extension for the root, I'm going to grab both the root control and the root itself, and I'm going to drag those both into the root. I'm going to add. So I've now added both the joint and the rig to it, and then I'm going to grab that and I'm going to drag this into the character. And it's just giving me a little warning saying, hey, all your poses are now out of date. So if you want to include this into your poses and be able to, you'll need to update your poses, essentially. So there you go. I've now added this, and you can actually see that the joint is now a little bit transparent, and it's got like a little white outline around the outside of it, indicating that this is now part of a character extension. Now, the reason why I want this to be a character extension is because when I plot this down, I want this root, I want this control to be baked down, so that if I've animated it and I export to game, that root motion comes in. So if I kind of head back over to Unreal over here and I look at my animation, that's exactly what I did here. Is I have animated the root and I baked it down. And because this is a locomotion, it's just a linear line from here to so just a linear motion. There's no ease in or ease out. So let me head back over here to Motionbuilder. All right, so that in a nutshell is root motion. And yeah, I mean, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'd be more than happy to try to answer them the best I can. I know sometimes I don't, I'm kind of absent from my YouTube channel because I get really busy with things. But yeah. So that being said, I hope you all have a good time. I hope this helps. And whoa. Hold on. One more thing. I know I'm going to get this question. I know I'm going to get this question because I did not explain it. Why did I create this this feature where you can select the node and then go to your properties and toggle root control on and off, whether or not you want the joint to be in control or you want the rig to be in control? All right. The reason is, let's say you're pulling animation into Motionbuilder that already has root motion animated. You need to be able to toggle back and forth. It's kind of like, think of it like the control rig, right? Like it's a control rig that's controlling the skeleton. And just like the control rig where we have to like turn off the control rig, so I'm going to say none, turn that off, so that the control rig is no longer in control. I want to come down here and I want to turn off or toggle the constraint as well. So let me show you. File. I'm going to go and I'm going to do a motion file import. I'm going to go locate my old animations. Let me see if I can find one. Here. Anims. Motion. Probably here. Let's see, I'll just do the... Oh man. Do jog forward. Grab this one. All right, you can see I've imported an animation that actually has, loop it, him running with root motion. If root motion was enabled, it would come in looking something like this. And I don't want that. I want this. So then how do I get this onto everything? So let's me go grab the control rig. So let's say the control rig's on, the control rig's baked down. You can see that it's leaving the root behind, right? So this can become a big mess if you're not careful with it. So let me deactivate that and turn that on. I'm going to turn off my control rig. I can see here's my animation. Maybe this came from Unreal. Maybe this came from, maybe you bought some assets online that already has the root animated. Maybe it came from Maya. Maybe you did some animation there. It doesn't matter where the animation comes from. Basically, you're pulling in animation that the animation is not on the actual control. So then all you have to do is you have to plot down. So it's plot to control rig. And if I select this and go to my F curves, I can see that it's now moving forward. Actually, let me check my settings. So I'm going to plot. Let me turn this off. None. Plot to control rig. And I'm going to get rid of constant key reducer because I don't want that on. Unroll. Yeah, everything else looks good. Plot. Oh, there we go. Now everything is plot. There's a key on every frame on all axes. All right, now what I can do is I can take this and I can flip it. And he's still running forward. And now he's running forward, and I can take this and I can do whatever I want with it. And once I'm finished editing, I'll just bake everything down. Everything gets baked back down to the root, whatever I do to it. And then it's ready to export. So yes, that is why I have a toggle to let me go back and forth between whether it is root controlled or joint controlled or rig controlled. So anyway, there you go. One last little tidbit of knowledge. So until next time, happy animating.